big task ahead of him, taking on a future Hall of Famer in Frank Mir. Folks, we have also got a spectacular co-main event for you with Josh Thompson and El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson. Both of these guys are scrappers. They know how to throw their hands. We've got Holly Holm on this fight card. You know, she was victorious in her debut. You have trained with her before. I know you're expecting big things from her. It is a fantastic card. It's on a Wednesday. Pretty much nothing else to watch on a Wednesday night. You know you still got that buzz from this great fight weekend, so you want to be here for this. With that, we want to send you down the coastline to beautiful, sunny San Diego. John Anik survived Fight Week out in Vegas, and he is now standing by at the scale. Mr. Anik, take it away.
Official weigh-in for UFC Fight Night, Mir versus Duffy. What is up, San Diego? Thank you all so much for coming out. This is the official weigh-in. How about a hand for our Octagon girls, Chrissy Blair and Vanessa Hansen. The best matchmaker on the planet is that man, Joe Silva. My man, Matt Emmons, bringing up the rear. All right, we begin with the UFC FightPass.com prelims. First up in the UFC welterweight division, Andrew Highlight Craig versus Lyman Cyborg Good. First fighter to the scale, making his UFC debut. Please welcome Lymangood.
Lymangood was on Tough 19. He did not qualify to get inside the house. After his UFC hopes seemed to be dashed, Lymangood went on to be a champion in other organizations, amounting to 8-3 record along the way. Good makes his UFC debut and believes that fighting high-level competition outside of UFC has gotten him ready to deal with the UFC's elite.
$170 for Lymangood. And his opponent is making his welterweight debut, Andrew Craig.
Andrew Craig is one of my best friends, and he was my main training partner when I lived in Austin. I was concerned that making 170 would slow down his improvement, but he constantly lost the weight and got better at the same time. So I'm looking forward to his welterweight debut being just as good as his UFC debut.
$170 and a half.
170 and a half for Andrew Craig. All right, next up in the middleweight division, King Kevin Casey versus Ildemar Marajo Alcantara.
Saturday, July 25th, the UFC returns to Fox with the rematch everyone has been waiting for as bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw takes on former champ Kenan Barao. It is all live and all free Saturday, July 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
$185 and a half for Marajo. And his opponent, please welcome King Kevin Casey.
Saturday at a special early time of 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, Michael Bisping takes on Talis Leitchis live from Scotland, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
185.5 for Kevin Casey. And that brings us to the Fox Sports 1 UFC Fight Night prelims. First up in the welterweight division, Igor Araujo versus Sean Tarzan Strickland.
Sean Strickland has faced 3 opponents inside the octagon, but none tougher than the man he sees in the mirror. Strickland said becoming a UFC fighter was his biggest dream, but it also came with a lot of pressure. He was afraid to go out there, and he fought conservatively. Strickland said those days are over. He's out there to compete with the best, and he's going to go out there and show he's not going to be paralyzed by anybody he has to face in the octagon.
$171 for Sean Strickland. And his opponent, Igor Araujo.
Tomorrow, former champion Frank Mir faces knockout machine Todd Duffee on a special Wednesday edition of UFC Fight Night, beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports 4.
$171 for Igor Araujo. Next up in the bantamweight division, Ronnie Yaya versus Masanori Kanehara.
Friday, the Guinness International Champions Cup continues as 2 of the world's most popular teams square off when Club America takes on Manchester United. Coverage begins at 11 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1.
$136 for Masanori Kanehara. And his opponent, please welcome Ronnie Yaya.
Ronnie Yaya says he feels the best he has ever felt for a fight. In the past, he was a jiu-jitsu fighter fighting MMA. Now he feels like he's assumed the identity of a complete mixed martial artist. He's also thrilled to be fighting back here in SoCal, where he lived and trained for nearly 3 years.
$135.5 for Ronnie Yaya. All right, our next bout is in the bantamweight division. Jessica Bateastaka Andrade versus Sarah Cheesecake Morris.
Sarah Morris says she believes she'll be victorious leaving San Diego, and when she is, she's off to Thailand. Her and her boyfriend have a 4-week trip planned. They plan to eat their way through the country and, of course, visit a few gyms along the way.
$135.5 for Sarah Morris. And her opponent, currently ranked number 13 in the world, Jessica Andrade.
Fresh off his win at UFC 189, newly crowned interim featherweight champion Conor McGregor continues his takeover of the UFC as he coaches on the all-new season of The Ultimate Fighter against Uriah Faber beginning September 9th, only on Fox Sports 1.
$134.5 for Jessica Andrade. All right, now we get to our featured prelim in the featherweight division. Sam Cecilia versus Yasin Mazey.
Yasin Mazey says when he leaves the gym, he heads home and then heads right back to the gym, and that's for his 3 boys. He has a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old. They all have wrestling practice. It's about an hour and a half long. He said he loves to watch them learn. His 13-year-old gets a little nervous to watch Dad. His younger boys, he said, well, they just like to see Dad in a stand-up brawl.
$145.5 for Yasin Mazey. And his opponent, please welcome Sam Cecilia.
Sam Cecilia told me this morning that he had just had 3 pounds to go before he made weight. So he's excited about this fight because he feels this is one of those fights where he can start racking wins together. He feels Mez is a guy that just tries to win on points, and he's going to go in there and try to knock him out. When he's not doing that, knocking people out that is, he's at home drawing charcoal sketches with pads.
$146 for Sam Cecilia.
Welcome back to LA. You can catch the 6-fight main card on Fox Sports 1, the exclusive home of the UFC, starting with welterweights Alan Jouban and Matt Dwyer. Canada's Dwyer is up first.
Matt Dwyer started MMA because his high school rugby coach was the MMA program and started the MMA program, and he actually got credits for fighting MMA in high school. And he said after that, you know what? He was addicted. He wanted to stick with it and chase his dream of being a UFC fighter. Pretty cool. I mean, could you imagine getting credits for doing MMA back when you're in high school?
In high school? Man, I wish. Back when I was in high school, MMA wasn't even a thing.
That's exactly, it's called NHB back then.
You're an originator, Eve.
That means you old, Eve. That's what that means.
169 for Matt Dwyer. And his opponent is Alan Joubert.
Alan Joubert started out as a model to actually support his passion of fighting. Now the fighting is helping the modeling. In his UFC debut, he was discovered by a top agent, recently signed there, and even has a spread now in the pages of Vogue Italia.
Alan Joubert, a nice local boy here from around the LA area, does a lot of his camp with the Black House team, so he's getting in some good reps with guys like Lyoto Machida. You know, you've heard of him, huh? Rashad?
Oh,
sorry,
see,
I'm sorry.
Are we on that
I'm
again?
sorry.
Oh, we talked about this.
$170.5 for Alan Joubert.
Also has the advantage of getting ready for the fight night with Kevin Casey on the same card, so that's always helpful when you have a teammate fighting the same
Whenever
night.
you have a teammate on the card, it makes it that much easier because it kind of alleviates the stress of just being the only one. So it's a heck of a thing to have a teammate on there.
It does. I'm looking forward to that fight because
All right, next up in the lightweight division, Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee versus James Moonwalker Moon Tashri.
James Montazri said he had a very strict mom growing up. She always wanted him to be a musician, had him in piano and trumpet. He competed actually for music all over when he was a child. He even plays the trumpet a little now. He didn't tell his mom he wanted to be a fighter. He wanted to wait till after his first UFC win, but the Korean newspaper beat him to it.
So we've got a purple belt on the scale right now, guys. If the fight
155
goes to the
for
ground,
James Moon Tashri.
155 there, he makes the way to goes to the ground. Kevin Lee might be in a little bit of trouble.
And his
I don't know
opponent,
about
please
that. I think
welcome
Lee's
Kevin
submission
Lee.
defense looks pretty solid.
All right.
Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom, you know, he says growing up, he says there's not too much I like to remember about growing up. I don't want to talk bad about where I'm from, but I had it kind of rough. And having that rough upbringing, it definitely lands, at least hand in hand with a sport like MMA because you have that built-in grind, you know, and he's moved down to Vegas and he's part of that team at Couture's gym, and they are so high on this guy because he's got so high talent with his wrestling and his striking.
$156 for the Motown
So you're taking the
Phenom.
NCAA D2 wrestler Lee over the purple belt.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, he's a wrestler like myself.
Yeah,
so you always gotta go.
Rashad,
Oh, they're
I know
gonna
you-
kiss. They gonna.
Uh-oh.
They kind of close.
That was a little intimate.
That was intimate. That wasn't even.
Uh-oh. Lee's fired up.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a fight.
Yes, we do.
Hey, we might have a fight right now.
God, I'm a
And
little
I'm gonna
bit.
tell you, like Burt Watson used to tell us, do not fight for free.
That's right.
All right, moving on now to the bantamweight division. Scott Young Guns Jorgensen versus Manville the Anvil Gamburian.
Manny moved down to 135 and has looked good in his new weight class, but he's got a tough opponent in front of him tomorrow night. This fight should be a slugfest on the feet, and I'm also excited about the wrestling versus judo angle of this bout and seeing who comes out on top.
Well, I'll tell you what, Manny's last fight I seen, man, he looked strong. And then, you know, this is a weight class where Manny can actually use his physical attributes. I always felt like before, he was just a little too small, and no matter how good a technique he had, he was always just physically outmatched.
$135 for Manville
And for those who don't know,
Gamburian.
Manny fights out of Glendale Fighting Club, of course, where Ronda Rousey trains. Those two are
And
very, very
his
close.
opponent,
And
please welcome
there's your
the
judo
veteran
love right there,
Scott
too.
Jorgensen.
Yeah, you gotta love how Manny does it.
Jorgensen's back up a weight class. You know, sometimes what happens is a lot of people think like, I'm gonna go down and be better and be stronger, but that's not necessarily how it works out. When you go down and you cut a lot of weight, you definitely lose a lot of different attributes. You may lose your speed, you may lose just being able to endure a fight. But now I think he's back at a weight where he can perform well.
Without a doubt, some of the greatest ink in the organization, though. Come on.
135
he's got
for
the
Scott
tattoos. You know, this guy,
Jorgensen.
the reading the weight is so slow. I think that everybody's gonna miss weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned about everybody stepping up there. But I really like Jorgensen also. This fight is going to be pretty hot, man. Both these guys, they're exciting fighters,
Yes,
you know?
they are.
All right, now we get to a feature bout in the bantamweight division. Holly, the preacher's daughter, Holm, versus Marion, Belizean bruiser, Renault.
Renault is not intimidated by Holly Holm and says she's just another opponent that she's got to take out. This IBJJF purple belt champion plans to run through every opponent she sees until she becomes a UFC champion on top of that IBJJF title.
And she's still a teacher. I believe she's still a teacher. She's, a teacher, and she says, that she shares the whole experience with the students, and they just love it.
Imagine not showing up without your project done or homework done for her.
I mean, I couldn't imagine my teacher being able to beat me up.
$134.5 for Marion Renault. And her opponent, the undefeated Holly Holm.
Holly Holm's nickname is the preacher's daughter, and that's because she is a preacher's daughter. In fact, her dad used to actually be in her corner for every single boxing match. Her mom is a massage therapist. She says she can't really watch Holly fight, but she is there to support her nutrition plan pre-fight as well as massage post-fight.
Rashad, you've trained along with her. What'd you think of her debut fight against Rocky Pennington?
135 for Holly Holm.
I felt that she was a little bit too conservative in her fight and afraid to get taken down. Now, Holly has great jiu-jitsu as well, too, so I don't know if it was just the coaches in her ear too much saying you need to be heavy on the front foot, but it didn't work out with her because it took a lot of what she's naturally good at, and that's that bounce. She has a great amateur boxing style where she comes in and out and very hard, to hit, and also she lands some effective strikes.
Yeah, and I don't think she should be too concerned with her takedown defense. She looked really good in that fight. She was caught in a deep single, her leg was high, and she was able to defend it, get it back, and still do some punishment there. So I don't think she should be too concerned about it.
This is the longest stare down ever, though. What's gonna happen?
They've learned. You don't look away first.
Look what's happening.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Oh, I love it.
All right.
Holly.
I guess that's gonna be a
good
good
stuff.
fight. Yes, that's
And
really
with
good
that,
stuff.
we have arrived
Intense.
at the co-main event in the lightweight division. Josh the Punk Thompson versus Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. First fighter to the scale, ranked number 11 in the world, Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson is a fighter I'm definitely excited about. This kid has been growing in confidence, and just watching him develop and grow, he's gonna be something special. And confidence is one of those things that once you got it, you compete at a different level. And I'm just watching this kid get more confident every single time he steps into the octagon. And he's so hard to stop because he has an array of tools that he can use, whether it be from standing or from the ground. He's just one of those fighters, I'm telling you, he's gonna be a champion one day.
$156 for Tony
Yeah, I think Ferguson is great, and actually a former baseball player as well. He's just an all-around great athlete.
And his
Just an
opponent is the
athlete. Yeah, he's a
former
tough kid.
Strikeforce lightweight champion, currently ranked number 9 in the world, Josh Thompson.
Josh told me that he's not underestimating Tony Ferguson. He said he's betting it all on himself in this one, though. He's not afraid of El Cucuy's wild style and feels he has what it takes to stop the streaking Tony Ferguson.
But this morning, Eve, Josh posted on Facebook he had 15 pounds to go. He's one of those guys that does 15 on the last day.
I think he had to be joking around because he wouldn't be feeling that good if he cut 15 pounds.
I hope
Yeah, no,
he
he
was kidding.
looks too.
But I
like
know a
he has too
lot
much.
of guys used to do that. That's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight, but I mean, a lot of guys used to do that
Yes.
because they found out that's not the way that it should be done. but when you say that,
Now look at him fall.
155 and a half for Josh Thompson.
Josh Thompson, I went out with him one time. And this kid actually tried to have a dance off with me, but Josh got well, I'm telling you, Josh, if you ever see Josh dance, it's something to watch, man. I wanted to put it on Instagram for everybody, but it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. He thinks he's out there like Magic Mike or something.
Right, but he's not.
No. Ooh.
This is going to be such a good fight.
All right, now time to take a closer look at the two men on the marquee, the heavyweights who share the octagon for tomorrow's main event. Take a look.
Frank Mir looked absolutely spectacular and knocking out Bigfoot Silva.
Oh! Down goes Bigfoot!
Frank took a long time off, and boy, did it pay off.
Wow! What a shot there from Frank Mir. What a finish!
I felt great and was able to knock out Bigfoot, who was ranked number 8 in the world at the time, and I knocked him out in a little under 2 minutes.
Mir compete with the enthusiasm that he showed in the Bigfoot Silva fight is inspiring. And it makes me excited about seeing him fight again.
I showcased the one attribute that I think everybody can take from my career is that I constantly am trying to move forward.
Frank Mir is one of the very best submission artists to ever compete in the UFC's heavyweight division. You're talking about a guy who has broken the bones of 2 former champions in submitting them.
I think Frank Mir is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He's been a champion, he's been a great fighter, but it's my time now.
Todd Duffee had to overcome a serious illness and a set of injuries that had really had him on the verge of retiring.
2 full years is the typical recovery. I got lucky, it took me about a year, and I immediately got back in the gym and started training.
He got healthy again and put on a show against Anthony Hamilton. The fighter that we saw in that fight is a real threat to anyone in the UFC's heavyweight division.
When I first got in the UFC, I just wanted to be one of the best. Now I truly believe that I can be a UFC heavyweight champion.
Todd Duffee is a really good athlete. He's very explosive, very powerful. He's going to be looking to finish me. And when he realizes that this isn't going to be an easy night, he's going to look for the opportunity for me to have a submission so he can go home early.
I guess he's kind of upset that I called him out.
He was disrespectful, and that actually has helped drive my training to the point where it is now, to where I'm looking to go ahead and make sure that this fight is one of his last in the UFC.
I'm sorry, dude. You know, it's just business. This is my everything right now. This is what's going to define my career at this moment. He's in my way. I will be the UFC champion.
First fighter to the scale, taking part in his first UFC main event, Todd Duffee.
American top team, Todd Duffee. This is my boy, man. I'm so proud and so excited for him. He's been really focused in this camp. Dean Thomas, Mike Brown, Kami Barzini, and Ricardo Laboria were all focused on helping Todd get better and focused on beating Frank Mir. So I'm excited about what he can bring out tomorrow night.
Did you ever let him hit you?
Oh, no. I don't even want him to look at me hard.
But Todd's like a big puppy that don't know his strength, and he will try to spar you or try to train with you.
.241
I actually
for
trained with
Todd
Todd at
Duffee.
an athlete's performance place, and getting to know him,
his
he's an
opponent
interesting
is the
character.
former 2-time UFC
guy,
heavyweight champion. Please welcome Frank Mir.
Frank Mir, one of the best submission fighters in the heavyweight division of all time, former UFC heavyweight champion. You know, one thing I can say about Frank is that he's one of those fighters who continue to be a student of the game no matter what. And that's a humbling thing, is when you always got to humble yourself to make sure you're still learning new technique. He has his new boxing coach, and he's just over the moon about, and he's actually learning new technique that he's never known before. So it's like, there's never a point in mixed martial arts where you're done growing. You know, when you become done, then you're done. And Frank Mir knows that, and he continues to keep adding tools to his game.
Yeah, I caught up with him in Vegas this past week, and he talked just about that, wishing he knew now what he, 10 years ago, his body would have taken a lot less damage. He says he's training a lot smarter, and like you said, still just such a student of the game.
.262 for Frank Mir.
Another thing about getting a new coach is especially a boxing coach, they're not really teaching you anything different, but it's the fact that it's a new person and it's a new outlook on the way they're giving that information to you. It makes you more receptive.
You know, I think Frank is kind of heavy, like 262.
I was just gonna say, he's 21 pounds heavier.
I like to see him a little bit lighter in the fight, like against
All right,
Frank,
ladies and gentlemen,
Todd
that
Duffee,
makes it official. Thank you all so much for coming out to the weigh-in. We'll see you right back here for the fights tomorrow night.